Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome to our next study in Galatians. And I have so appreciated hearing from so many the comments on Galatians. I'm learning so much. I'm appreciating your input. This is just glorious. And if you ever want to hear all the other brothers and sisters who are commenting, just go to Setting Captives Free and find the Galatians study, and you'll see all the comments. Anyway, today let's look at chapter 2, verses 1 to 5. And Paul is confronting a serious problem here. In fact, it's so serious that if the Galatians don't get this right, the church will disappear. The church will be destroyed. So what's the problem? There's a problem that Paul's addressing, and verse 4 tells us the problem. It says, some false believers have infiltrated our ranks to spy on the freedom we have in Christ Jesus and make us slaves. So here they are. Paul had preached the gospel to the Galatians, and they received it and were living in freedom. Freedom from the old covenant law, freedom from slavery to sin, freedom to walk by the Spirit, and to be a new creation in Christ. They were living in freedom because that's the message of the cross and the power of the gospel. It brings freedom. But then, some false believers infiltrated and began teaching a false gospel. Now, this false gospel, we will see when we get to chapter 3, it got their eyes off of the cross and put it on to what they were to do. That's how we know it's false. In other words, they might be saying, don't you know about God's law? Don't you realize that your life is to measure up, that you are to keep the law, and that you are to be circumcised so as to be a son of God? Well, there's the problem. And you can see it's a problem. It's if any teaching gets your eyes off of what Jesus did and focuses you on your performance, that's no gospel at all. So look what Paul did about this problem. In verse 2, look what it says that he did about the problem. Let me just summarize. I presented to them the gospel that I preach among the Gentiles. When there is a problem, Paul presents the gospel. Paul uplifted the cross, didn't he? He pointed to the blood Jesus shed to forgive them and free them. He pointed to the cross that breaks the power of canceled sin and that sets the captives free. And so, here's what it's like. Let me give you this illustration. It'd be like somebody telling you, hey, here's how to get $1 million. You sit at this tree and money just flows down from it. It just floats right down. You reach out, you just grab it, take it as a free gift. It's a money tree. Sit there and receive. But then someone comes along and says, no, that doesn't even make sense. Here's how to get $1 million. You climb the tree. And if you can make it to the top, you'll get the money. Well, that makes sense. You think nothing, we don't ever get anything for free. So you try, but you fall and you break your arm. And you try again, and you slip and fall again. And pretty soon, you're so discouraged because you see how weak you are, and you can never seem to make it to the top. You see, Paul came along and in essence said, sit back down, look back up at the tree, and collect your millions of dollars of righteousness as a gift given to you by Jesus, who climbed all the way to the top of the tree and then hung in victory for you. And Paul wanted to make sure, it says in this passage, that he was not running his race in vain. Meaning, if we're just all going to turn back to the law, back to our own tree climbing performance, if that's what we're going to do, then I've preached to you in vain. Meaning, if we're just going to go back to circumcision and back to Sabbath keeping and back to ceremonial washing, if we're just going to go back to that, then I've preached in vain. What does that mean? It means that the cross accomplishes all of that. When Jesus died, you were circumcised. You became a true Sabbath keeper by faith. When Jesus died, you were washed and cleansed from your sin. So here's the question that I have for you this week. Can you see how presenting the gospel is the solution for every problem that arises? Share your thoughts. I'm looking forward to hearing from you this week.